We hear horror stories all the time about divorce and child custody in the media. Cliches about nasty divorce and ugly custody battle are the daily fare. The voyeuristic he said, she said accounts have transformed our media into the purveyors of real-life soap opera. But they don't very often tell us about what is really going on. Divorce and separation involving children entail consequences that are much more far-reaching than the public has been led to believe. Beyond disrupting and often destroying the lives of tens of millions of people, they also endanger our social order, they undermine our economic prosperity, they undermine and corrupt our system of law enforcement and criminal justice, and even our civil liberties and constitutional government. The loosening of bonds between parents and their children and the increasing government control of children is reaching crisis proportions. It is little exaggeration today to say that children have become commodities and weapons that are fought over, traded, bought, sold, stolen, and even killed. The consequences are extremely far-reaching. Custody battles, parental kidnappings, fatherless children, child abuse, foster care, adoption markets, educational failure, violent crime, substance abuse, psychotherapy, psychotropic drug use, escalating medical costs, sex trafficking, child soldiers. These are some of the costs of the breakdown of the family and consequences of the loosening bond between parents and their children. Does the sound okay? Can you hear me all right? Is that about right? Okay. Growing government intervention into family life and the separation of children from their parents is a trend that needs urgent attention. How the government intervenes in private family life, how it assumes control over children, how it distributes children among parents and other parties. These are matters with profound implications not only for families, but also for our freedom. Yet the current practice governing child custody has been developed gradually over decades with virtually no public input or debate. This can't continue. Changes in the law and policy governing divorce, child custody, and other aspects of private family life in recent decades have created a crisis of the family whose media manifestations do not accurately reflect or are a superficial indication of the problem. Even today, these matters are poorly understood not only by the public, but even by practitioners, by lawyers, social workers, scholars, journalists, people who work in the field. Until recently, this was a matter that was dealt with by a principle that was often violated but never announced, and that principle was that parents speak for and control their minor children. This guarantee for parental authority ensured the integrity of the family, and it guaranteed that children could not be manipulated for the political power of adults. No known society, I'm quoting sociologist Susan Schell, no known society treats the question of who may properly call a child his or her own as simply a matter to be decided politically, as one might distribute land or wealth, Susan Schell writes. No known government, however brutal or tyrannical, has ever denied, in fact or principle, the fundamental claim of parents to their children. A government that distributed children randomly could not be other than tyrannical, even if it had the best interest of society in mind. A government that paid no regard to the claims of biological parenthood would be unacceptable to all but the most fanatical of egalitarian or communitarian zealots. Close quote. Schell is wrong about the facts. Many governments today are moving toward precisely the kind of practices she describes, but she is completely correct about the consequences. It is creating precisely the tyranny that she predicts. The procedures and practices governing child custody are seriously flawed and demand urgent attention. Many people disagree about the solutions, but what we need above all is a national dialogue and debate. We need it here in Illinois, we need it nationally, in fact we need it throughout the Western world. These are issues that determine the lives of tens of millions, but they are determined often behind closed doors by very few. Most Americans would be shocked if they understood what is taking place in this country under the name of divorce. Parents who have committed no legal infraction can have their relationship with their children criminalized, and they can be turned into criminals or quasi-criminals in ways they are powerless to avoid. Few people to whom it has not happened realize how easily and frequently children are taken away from parents, even without any allegation of legal wrongdoing. The forcible separation of children from their parents in this country is now routine and takes place overwhelmingly through the process of involuntary divorce. The forcible separation of children from their parents that have nothing to do with the children's wishes or safety or health or welfare is now routine. As family law now operates, one parent can have the other summoned to court and without offering any evidence of any legal infraction can request that parent be summarily stripped of all rights over his children. And in virtually every case, the judge will grant the request. It is not necessary that the parent be found unfit. It is not necessary that he commit any crime or civil wrongdoing, and he need not even agree to a divorce or separation. The cliches and euphemisms of divorce have left us all willing to accept this loss of our fundamental rights and responsibilities over our private lives without realizing the full implications. We are told that a marriage has broken down and that therefore the government must intervene to assume control over the children. This begs important questions. We don't normally invite government officials in to sort out every private disagreement between two people. Government agents are not necessarily disinterested parties. They have a tangible interest in justifying such intervention, for it rationalizes a major extension of their power. Through children, the modern state achieves one of its most coveted and dangerous ambitions, to control the private lives of its citizens. At one time, it was axiomatic in state and federal law that parents have an inviolable right to the care, custody, and companionship of their children until they do something to forfeit it. If American parents understood how fragile are their personal rights, how easily their children can be taken away from them, not just divorced parents, but all parents, there would be a national outcry. The astonishing but incontrovertible fact is that with the exception of convicted criminals, no group in our society today has fewer rights than parents. Even accused criminals have the right to due process of law, to know the charges against them, to face their accusers, to a lawyer, to a trial, and to expect knowingly false accusations to be punished. A parent can be deprived of his children, house, savings, future earnings, privacy, and freedom without any of these constitutional protections. This is a quote. Criminals, killers, and rapists are presumed not guilty in the absence of evidence to the contrary, says one grandmother, pulled into a custody battle in New Hampshire. But fathers fighting for custody are assumed guilty. Once Americans have children, they lose their most important constitutional rights. A few years ago, Americans were being inundated by warnings that we would lose our freedom because of international terrorism. Today, Americans are increasingly convinced that the greatest threat to our freedom is not from abroad, but from our own government. I don't think I need to list here all of the instances where government is taking control of just about everything. The economy, education, medicine. Everywhere government is creating problems and then claiming that more government power is the only solution to the problem that government has created in the first place. Everywhere government is invading the private lives of its citizens. Everywhere government is seizing control of the things that belong to Americans. Through confiscation, through taxation, through new crises, real and contrived, through rules and regulations made not by democratically elected officials, but by anonymous government operatives who effectively act as plainclothes police, and by judges and lawyers who have gotten in the habit of summoning American citizens to their presence and issuing them with orders. This country was not founded on the principle that citizens must take orders from the government. It was founded on the principle that government is the servant of the people. The destruction of freedom is far more advanced in this country today than most Americans realize, or that even our most vocal leaders have led us to believe.